overhead, and they are communicating with both the California Highway Patrol and LAPD, and we'll have to see if other units begin to take over this pursuit. But you can see this vehicle here, this gray hatchback, small SUV or sedan that was being pursued by California Highway Patrol West Valley Division, now being followed by an LAPD airship until other agencies get involved or they decide to cancel that airship as well. You saw that airship go through the shot just a second ago. So now we are eastbound Ventura Boulevard, coming up on Yarmouth here in Los Angeles, up in the San Fernando Valley, and we are just going to continue to follow this as it continues forward. We're eastbound Ventura Boulevard through White Oak now here, and like I said, LAPD is not in pursuit. They do have an airship overhead. CHP was in pursuit, but they have been told to stand down, back out of it because it was getting too dangerous with this driver going on the wrong side of the road at super high speeds. The driver is driving a little different now, still pretty fast for the traffic scenario that it is in. But it is not on the wrong side of the road, but it is still being erratic, coming up on Encino Avenue here, Ventura Boulevard and Encino Avenue. There you go, cutting from the number 3 lane to the number 2 lane, all the way over to the center divider, and now going down the center divider at a high rate of speed. We'll have to see what he does here, if he's going to turn around or if he's just trying to avoid this traffic. And it looks like he's just trying to avoid the traffic here, going down that center divider at roughly 42 miles an hour, continuing down that center divider. People aren't expecting this when they're attempting to turn into a business or a driveway. They don't expect to see cars moving quickly in that center divider, so they might not look over their shoulder and see that coming or expect it coming, and that might cause an accident. But now we're in that left-hand turn pocket here at Ventura Boulevard and Louise. We'll have to see if this suspect makes that turn. Now we're northbound Louise from Ventura Boulevard. And we are hearing now from LAPD that this is a Kia, and that they are now interested in locating this vehicle and seeing if they can stop it. You see wrong way on Louise here, northbound in those southbound lanes, going through the trees here. Thank you. And I learn something new every day. I'm getting great information from my assignment desk. Matt Phillips there knows quite a bit about cars, and LAPD actually had the wrong type of vehicle for this. They're calling it a Kia, but it's actually a Ford hatchback that you can see here, gray in color, still going northbound Louise. We're out 25 miles an hour. Slowing down, going faster, very erratic in its speed. It doesn't really have any traffic ahead. It does have one car, but we'll have to see what it does when it approaches that car, if it's going to try to pass it or what's next. It's going to go right shoulder around that car and come up to the stop sign, cross traffic, and it half stops at that signal. And now we're going to do a fake turn, and now we're going over the 101 freeway. That's the 101 freeway you see underneath Louise here that this suspect is going over, and LAPD's air unit is still overhead, calling out positions to agencies in the area to keep the officer safe, and hopefully if there's an officer that spots it, they can get involved and get this resolved peacefully. But you can see that high rate of speed here on Burbank Boulevard, now going 45 miles an hour on Burbank eastbound. Coming into more traffic here. We'll see what he does. Last time we saw this, he hopped in that center divider. It looks like he's going to stick in that number 1 fast lane. And now there we are in that center divider once again. Eastbound Burbank coming up on Edward E. Horton. Wrong way in those turn lanes there, back in that center divider, and we'll see what happens here. But going about 50 miles an hour now in that center divider, which is way too quick for that stop traffic on the right there and the head-on traffic on the left. But as we continue here, coming up to another turn pocket here, right side of the road, and it looks like he is stuck there, so we'll have to see if he jumps around into that oncoming traffic or if he just waits for that light. This is Burbank Boulevard at Balboa Boulevard here in the West Valley area of Los Angeles. And it does look like LAPD does have a unit behind this vehicle now. We'll see if that unit knows what's going on and if it's going to get involved, or if it's just a unit that was in the area and had another call and is going to turn. But it looks like we'll see here in just a few moments as this continues on. And it does look like this West Valley unit from LAPD, you can see that number 10 on the top, West Valley, they are going to get involved in this. They are following that suspect vehicle into that straight lane, that number 1 lane there, out of the turn pocket. So he does know what's going on, and it looks like he is going to get involved. Eastbound still, Burbank at Balboa, waiting for that light to turn green. We'll have to see what happens. There's LAPD's air unit overhead calling out this now following of this driver here who was driving erratically, and that is what the want was from California Highway Patrol just 10-15 minutes ago when they were in pursuit of this vehicle. And now we're continuing eastbound on Burbank at McKellen, and that primary unit is behind it now. They're just getting all their ducks in a row before they attempt to do any sort of stop on this vehicle, making sure they have the right wants on the vehicle, why CHP was pursuing it. Was it just a failure to yield, not stopping for the police? Was there other things like reckless driving, which that was the original call, or the original reason that the California Highway Patrol attempted to pull over the vehicle, and then ended the pursuit over that same reason of going wrong side on the road at a high rate of speed. So we're continuing to follow this on Burbank Boulevard, going through Havenhurst now, eastbound at about 45 miles an hour here on surface streets. We're still eastbound Burbank, going through Woodley now here on in the West Valley and Van Nuys area of LAPD's areas. You got that one unit going behind the vehicle there. They're still tracking this vehicle, deciding what to do next. Air unit overhead, multiple air units actually talking about this now. CHP and LAPD deciding whose jurisdiction and who's going to be taking care of this if it does go pursuit again. But this is not a pursuit at the moment. It is just a following at this point. That unit following this vehicle that was wanted by California Highway Patrol for reckless driving was in pursuit. That pursuit ended about 10 minutes ago now. And LAPD is considering taking it over. You can see that unit behind it there. And if you're just joining us online, thank you for joining us on KTLA.com and our social media platforms. I'm Colton Von Pertz, and for Tim Lynn today with pilot David Viskovich here over this pursuit that turned into a following here in the Los Angeles, San Fernando Valley area. We're seeing a second LAPD unit hopping behind that primary unit there, that SUV. You see that Crown Victoria hopping in behind it. Typically, if something goes pursuit, there's 3 units in a pursuit. There are 2 regular units and then a supervisor. And so this is just continuing, getting ready, just in case they do decide to go pursuit on this. We are hearing on the scanner that there might be a possibility of this driver being under the influence or having some sort of illness, and so they're trying to call the suspect right now. It sounds like they do know who this suspect is, and so they're trying to get a hold of them and see what's going on before they go into some sort of pursuit that might put the public or that suspect or officers at danger. That's the last thing that the police department wants, is to put more people into danger. Still eastbound Burbank and at Woodley, stuck in traffic in that slow lane, that number 3 lane. Just making its way along at about 18 miles an hour now. While we're here, and we're going to try to see in that driver window, see if we can see that driver there. The windows are tinted. You'll see something on that dash, but unfortunately, due to the tinted windows, all we see is the driver's hand on the steering wheel. But we are now moving again. I'm going to pull out just a little while. And we are coming up on the 405 freeway now. We're going to we'll have to see what happens here. And it looks like we just saw that primary unit in this put on their lights, and it looks like the driver is not stopping at this point. We'll have to see if he tries to stop at a safer spot. There's not much of a curb there, but it looks like we are stopped in the street here. There's no, okay, and here we go, into the center divider. We haven't heard the word quite yet, but this suspect is fleeing from the vehicle. Wrong ways in the street here. Now back over eastbound on Burbank. Through Woodley, and in that intersection there, just missing that cross traffic. We have one LAPD unit behind it, one board behind that. We are at Sepulveda and eastbound on Burbank. They are calling this a reckless, possible DUI driver. See that driver there in that center divider, now going about 60 miles an hour. LAPD is in pursuit of this DUI driver now, eastbound Burbank through Kester. Eastbound Burbank through Kester at 70 miles an hour here on this surface street. Let's see what happens when he comes up here to Kester, southbound Kester from Burbank, here all the way back up to 50 miles an hour again after going through that turn. The units are a bit behind it, but there is an air unit directly overhead calling this out to those ground units as this vehicle continues southbound on Kester from Burbank. 83 miles an hour right now, 83 miles an hour right now on this surface street. Way too dangerous for this area that does have residences in it. You see there are intersections, possibility of cross traffic. That unit has backed off quite a bit, but it is still now going through the center divider. Even though those LAPD units are not right behind, they are going into tracking mode following this this suspect from the air, and those units on the ground backing just a hair back out of view, so that hopefully the suspect begins to slow down. Under the 101 there, we saw it go through the screen, still southbound on Kester, coming up on Camarillo, coming up to an intersection here. We'll have to see what happens. Just going down the center of those lanes there, taking up both lanes, but now we are coming up on, whoa, look at that. Didn't know what he wanted to do, saw that traffic there, wrong way of the street, and now westbound on Ventura Boulevard from Kester here now. Now, when LAPD is in tracking mode, they are still actively calling this out to their units on the ground, so their units are aware and are in the area, but they are not lights and sirens going right behind the vehicle, attempting to get this suspect to slow down and pull over so that they can apprehend them at a later time. But that air unit is overhead, still calling it out. And now we're out wrong side of the street there once again, westbound here on the eastbound lanes at Ventura, going through Sepulveda. We'll have to see what happens here once we get around this building. There he is, going under that 405 freeway, high rate of speed. There's probably traffic under there due to that light on the other side. There he is, coming out that turn pocket. We'll see what he does. We are going southbound 405 now, southbound 405 from Ventura. And this is where the California Highway Patrol could take over this pursuit once again. We'll have to tune in and hear what happens, but LAPD is in tracking mode of this pursuit of a DUI driver. Wow, just pushing out in front of that truck you saw there. High rates of speed all the way up to 75 miles an hour just off that on-ramp there. 85 now here southbound 405 from Sepulveda. Air unit still overhead as this goes southbound 405, starting the Sepulveda Pass here. $90 miles an hour now here southbound 405 through Royal Oak. If you're just joining us online, this is a DUI driver that CHP attempted to pull over earlier for reckless driving. The suspect did run from the California Highway Patrol West Valley Division, and they did terminate that pursuit. The California Highway Patrol did, at least, because of reckless driving, where the driver was going wrong side of the road. LAPD later picked up the vehicle, an air unit over the head. They attempted to pull over the vehicle once more. A pursuit did incur. Driver did begin driving recklessly once again. That's when it became a pursuit of a reckless driving under the influence suspect. They did go into tracking mode. Now we're tracking on the southbound 405 through the Sepulveda Pass here. This gray Ford small SUV hatchback. going through Mulholland now, 75 miles an hour into that HOV lane there. LAPD now backing out of this pursuit, terminating the pursuit. They're no longer in pursuit of this vehicle. The air unit does have the permission to let CHP know what's going on, see if they want it back, but this driver is still recklessly driving, cutting through different lanes here, about 95 miles an hour here on the southbound 405 through the Sepulveda Pass. We are hearing that on the other side of the Sepulveda Pass there are some units ready just in case this gets into their area. But this Ford here is going 106 miles an hour right now according to Sky V5 here southbound 405. LAPD now air unit following this vehicle, trying to get a hold of CHP, see what they'd like to do, but LAPD supervisors have called off the pursuit due to the danger of the speeds, and it's no longer technically in their jurisdiction as it is on the freeway system and not on surface streets. And right now in Sky 5, what I'm going to try to do is tune into the California Highway Patrol and see what their plan is here. In that right-hand emergency lane there, that's a very dangerous place to go, especially high speeds, but at any speed, because there might be broken down vehicles there that you might not be able to stop through. But all the way from that right-hand shoulder into those HOV lane there, this suspect just bouncing back and forth across all lanes of the southbound 405 right now at 80 miles an hour. Southbound 405 going through Sunset now here at 82 miles an hour. This gray vehicle here wanted for DUI as well as reckless driving from the California Highway Patrol and the LAPD. Both have terminated pursuits. The air units are still overhead following from above, attempting to coordinate with ground units to get them back involved as this driver is driving extremely dangerous here in the Los Angeles area. Cutting out of that carpool lane again, through the number 2 lane, 3 lane, and into sticking to that 3 lane here, southbound 405, at 95 miles an hour again, and into that 4 lane, just trying to cut through traffic at high rates of speed. We saw a CHP unit go by in that slow lane. They were ready, it looks like. Let's see what they do as they get into position. Let's see if that police unit got behind. It doesn't look like it did, so we're just going to stick with the suspect here as they attempt to place units behind this vehicle now. The California Highway Patrol Air Unit, CHP 50, is now over this and taking over for LAPD Air 18. And they are still following this southbound 405, and I'm going to beginning to call this out to the West Valley Department of California Highway Patrol, who are attempting to take over this pursuit. Wow, cutting through those lanes, just threading the needle between those vehicles, through the carpool lane, back into the number 1 lane at 100 miles an hour. 100 miles an hour here on the southbound 405. Traffic is light for this time of the day. That's for sure. We are in that rush hour period, but with the current situation, people staying at home, we are seeing a little bit lighter traffic as we go over under the overpass there of the 10 freeway. Wow, just cutting through all lanes of traffic, getting back over to that. Whoa! Wow, caught that SUV there. Just clipped it in the corner. We'll see if they pull over. But now all the way over into that right shoulder once again on the southbound 405. Now, as we continue here southbound on the 405, if this continues, we have to make a decision of how we want to approach following the pursuit due to the LAX airspace. But so we might have to get a little wider of a shot for a bit, but we're going to follow this as long as we possibly can. And we are hearing that he's coming up on some units right now, so we'll see if they take over the pursuit. Go ahead. Roger that. Stay clean until we go live on TV. Wow, we're running past that CHP unit there. Now CHP is in pursuit of this DUI reckless driver here, right-hand shoulder of the southbound 405, going through Venice Boulevard and continuing here southbound 405 at 60 miles an hour right now, which is still very fast for that right-hand shoulder when the rest of traffic is going about 20. Continuing southbound 405, going through Venice now. Southbound 405 through Venice into that number 4 lane. Let's see what happens as it looks like we might take that off ramp. Nope, he's just using that gore point there to try to get around some traffic through Venice now southbound 405. Just cutting off those cars on that on-ramp there. Still hiding on that right-hand shoulder. That seems to be the only place. Up to CHP reporting 100 miles an hour on the ground. This vehicle going here in that right shoulder. And those ground units are going to back out once again, it sounds like, and they're going to follow this pursuit from the air. This is still an active pursuit by the California Highway Patrol, but those ground units aren't able to get to it right now, so we're gonna follow it from the air. They're saying it's the CHP. This is going through Culver City now, southbound 405. And going through Braddock, southbound 5 through Braddock. So southbound 405 through Braddock. Coming up on the Marina Freeway, the 90, and we'll see what he does here. There's not very many options when it comes to the 90. It doesn't go very far, but it might be an escape off the 405 as traffic has picked up, and all he's been able to really commit to is that right shoulder. Still going about 70 miles an hour in that right-hand shoulder. Now southbound 405 through Culver Boulevard, still going down that right-hand shoulder at 65 miles an hour. We'll see, and it looks like we might be getting off. We are getting off. Let me get the cross here, just a second. On Jefferson here, we'll have to see what. And we're going to re-enter the freeway at Jefferson, southbound 405. Still, it looks like there's a unit that this suspect is going to pass here as it gets back on the southbound 405. You saw that unit on the right shoulder. Another unit right there. They are ready to get involved in this pursuit if it is so chosen by the supervisors of the California Highway Patrol. If you're just joining us on KTLA.com or on our social media, Facebook Live or elsewhere, this is Colton Von Pertz with pilot David Viskovich up in Sky 5 this evening following this pursuit of a reckless DUI suspect here in this Ford hatchback that we see here. This has went into pursuit and then back into following multiple times as we passed through different parts of Los Angeles, starting up in the West Valley area of Los Angeles with the California Highway Patrol up there. Each department of the LAPD and CHP that this has went through have obtained it, turned it into a pursuit, followed the vehicle, and then the driver began driving extremely recklessly, wrong side of the road, really high rate of speeds, going down medians and center dividers and right shoulders, and the police departments have said that's way too dangerous, it's not worth it, we don't want to put anyone else at risk, and have backed out of the pursuit and went back into following modes and canceled those pursuits. So we're just following this vehicle southbound 405 going through Slauson now here, Slauson and Sepulveda here on the southbound 405. Him just, this driver, the suspect, just hugging that that right-hand lane. We'll have to see if he gets off here. If he gets off here, coming up on La Tierra now, this does get into the LAX airspace. We're going to have to get a little farther away, but we're going to follow it the best we can as we go through LAX. He's getting off on La Tierra. It looks like, nope, it was just using that off-ramp to get around some vehicles back into that number 5 lane and going southbound still. Double in there so you can see the car a little closer, but we are still continuing southbound 405 back up to 65 miles an hour, just normal freeway speeds, but with the traffic that's actually a little fast for this time of day. And forgive this camera move, it's going to get a little darker for a second, but still trying to keep with that vehicle as it goes southbound 405, this gray Ford Fiesta wanted for DUI and reckless driving from the California Highway Patrol and LAPD. An interesting thing about this pursuit is both LAPD and the California Highway Patrol know who this suspect is and know where they come from. So they're trying to contact that suspect, get them to pull over, but he hasn't done so at this point. He is going back towards the area that his car is registered to, though, so we'll have to see if that turns into anything like him pulling over and bailing out of the vehicle. But we're just going to follow this southbound 405 in Inglewood now, going through, let's see here. When we're this far away, my maps get a little out of whack, but we're going to just follow the vehicle here southbound 405 as we go through the Los Angeles International Airspace. Still jumping between lanes from that one lane all the way over to the HOV carpool lane. This vehicle going at roughly 95 miles an hour here southbound 405, coming up on the 105. We'll have to see what happens there in that carpool lane there. You can see this gray Ford Fiesta. Pilot David Viskovich getting us up and over that LAX airspace back down into some normal airspace. We're a little lower, a little closer to that vehicle. That southbound 405 right there goes right through the approach end of LAX where all those big jets with all those passengers are landing. So we have to avoid that as those jets have to land at certain times to get those passengers where they need to go. So we don't want to get in their way and put any danger to anyone or slow anyone down. So they send us a different route. But you can see this Ford Fiesta here, gray in color, that's wanted for reckless DUI at this point, southbound 405, through the 105 here, southbound 405. And this would be the Inglewood area if you're following on a map. As you can see, no CHP in sight. All we have is air units overhead as well as us media right now. They are still calling this pursuit out to the supervisors and units on the ground to let them know what's going on. I lost zoom control. Hey Matt, I'm having a camera issue. I'm going to have to try to sort this out. Hey, can we come to a hover at some point and we'll catch back up to it? Okay, I'm trying to sort that out. Okay, Craig, I'm trying to find it. Uh-huh. Oh, okay. Oh, 16 left. Thanks, Craig. My map's not working. I see the air unit now. I see the air unit. I just don't see him yet. Okay. Maps aren't ready until we move. They just got recalibrated too. I'll keep you posted. Roger, 1 minute. Roger. Ten seconds. Wrong way. That's right. We are down here in Redondo Beach area. California Highway Patrol in pursuit of this Ford Fiesta here that you see. It was going a wrong way on Hawthorne Boulevard. You can see it stopping now. And that's what we've been seeing throughout this pursuit is as the police and law enforcement get involved, the driver begins to drive more reckless, and then as they pull back away, he does slow down and drive a little bit more with traffic, however still reckless. This started up off of Winnetka and the 101 when California Highway Patrol attempted to pull over this driver for reckless driving. That the driver did run, and however they did have the plate, but the driver began to drive on the wrong side of the road like we saw just a few minutes ago, so they stopped the pursuit. LAPD later picked it up, got on the freeway, driving recklessly on the freeway, cutting through all lanes of traffic, and it continued southbound 405 from there down here through LAX, and now in the Redondo Beach area, actually Torrance area now, here as we go under the 405 freeway there. You can see we are on 173rd Street here, coming up through under the 405. No units behind it, but we do have an air unit overhead. We saw this vehicle getting up over 100 miles an hour as it was on the freeway, in the 80 mile an hour range on some of the side streets earlier as it cut in the center dividers of some of the roads. But this driver has been just driving extremely recklessly. LAPD added in there that they believed that he was under the influence in terms of how he was driving. But the California Highway Patrol is following this vehicle from the air now, 173rd and Eastwood here in the Torrance area. Actually, he's on Prairie here in the Torrance area. That's exactly right. They were able to run that plate, and from what I understand, listening to the different agencies over this pursuit, they have an idea of who that suspect is, and they have been trying to attempt him via phone to try to get him to pull over, explain the situation. At one point, there was a confusion. Maybe he thought that he was being followed by a fake police officer, which was not the case. But they have been going in and out of that pursuit mode as the suspect was driving recklessly, and they don't want to endanger anyone else. So when it got too dangerous, they said, whoa, whoa, whoa. We noticed that when we got involved and we saw those lights and sirens behind the vehicle, he started driving worse and more dangerously. We don't want to put the public, that driver of the suspect vehicle, or those officers in any more danger than is needed if he's going to be driving at more normal pace, a little less recklessly without the police right behind him, we can just follow him from the air and see what happens from there. Hopefully he does pull over. I'm going to throw up Skyview 5 here so you can just see a little bit more of what I'm seeing from up here. 173rd place at near Eastwood is where he's at. There is a California Highway Patrol unit standing just a little far back in that fast lane of the road here, waiting to see where this vehicle goes. That suspect vehicle giving himself a lot of room, you can see there, between him and that vehicle in front, just in case he wants to dip out to one of the sides, go a different direction. If he doesn't want to turn, he can do a U-turn or something like that. But the thing about this is none of the civilian vehicles in the area know what's going on, and that can be dangerous too, especially with a reckless driver. If he jumps through intersections on a red light, there's no warning for those civilians. But right now it looks like he's just following traffic wrong side of the road there here as we go southbound on Prairie, turning eastbound on Artesia, and it looks like we're going to be getting back on the 405 freeway southbound from Artesia here in the Torrance area. You can see he's going about 40 miles an hour here on that on-ramp. We had that California Highway Patrol unit behind him. We'll see if he gets back involved. I apologize, I didn't throw that map up for you, but now you can see it there. We are southbound 405 from Artesia, going about 65 miles an hour now. Driving is a little less reckless, except for that stint on the opposite side of the road there. But right now, just going with that flow of the traffic, about 70 miles an hour, which is great for this time of the day on 405, due to most of the people staying home. But it is still a concern, as this driver, before we went on air, was going up and down the right-hand shoulders all the way back over to the center divider as it made its way southbound from the San Fernando Valley all the way down through LAX into Torrance. He was going on that 405 using all lanes. He even clipped a BMW SUV as he tried to make one of those erratic turns to jump through lanes. We're not sure of the condition of that car or the occupants of that vehicle, but that's what these situations turn into, is these drivers that are just trying to get home from a long day of work are now confronted by this car going at times over 100 miles an hour. Right now hitting 81 miles an hour here on the southbound 405, and they don't know what to do. That's not what they're expecting, and they might try to get out of the way or slam on the brakes, but that might cause more problems for them. But when I saw that accident earlier, it was just a clip, so hopefully it wasn't that bad. But the California Highway Patrol is still following this here southbound 405 as we go through the Torrance area, through all the refineries and stuff. As I pull out to a little wider shot, let's see if there's any units behind. It doesn't look like it. It looks like all we have overhead still is that CHP air unit calling this out to the ground units, so that they are aware and they can get involved if they deem it safe. But at this point, it seems like it's kind of hopping back in and out of pursuit to following, just depending on the demeanor of this suspect. And at the end of the day, the police, the law enforcement, their main goal is keeping people safe. And if their involvement is going to make it worse, and they can follow it from the air, that is what they're going to do. I'm going to hop off real quick and adjust my radio so I can hear this a little better. I'm going to send it back down to you, Mike and Chair. I'm back. That's right. Micah, that's right. We are 110 southbound going towards San Pedro through Torrance Boulevard just a few moments ago. Now in that number 3 lane, going about 85 miles an hour, which is quite quick on the freeway, as you guys know. But as we go back to that information that the Highway Patrol and LAPD were able to pull earlier, it did place this vehicle as residing down here in the San Pedro area. So maybe this driver is heading towards home. We don't know for sure, but that is a possibility as since this pursuit has pretty much started, it's attempted to make its way south for the majority of it. But you can see this vehicle now in the 90s, 96 miles an hour just a moment ago here southbound 405. And CHP is still not behind the vehicle, only following from the air. Light traffic for a majority of this freeway as we continue south into the harbor area, but they are following from the air, and they are letting those units know on the ground into that number 4 lane, still at 90 miles an hour or so. As we go southbound 405 through West, my apologies. Share, we are southbound 110 still through the Pacific Coast Highway off-ramp as we get down into the harbor area. LAPD now beginning to talk about this a little more as we're running out of freeway, so the CHP is going to be a little bit out of their area. But we are up to 95 miles an hour, still southbound in that number 2 lane here on the 110 freeway. We are south of Anaheim Boulevard now. Here on that 110 freeway. This reckless driver from earlier, for the most part, has calmed down. We see every few seconds he'll hop between lanes or do something like that where he just tries to go around a car. And that's great, but at the high rates of speeds that he's been going, just one wrong move and he can outdrive his talent and put that car into a situation that might cause it to go out of control or hit another vehicle, and that is not safe for himself or the public. So we don't want to see these speeds even on a more clear, empty freeway like this. Southbound coming up on Gaffey now here on the 110 freeway, and the 110 does end down here as we get into the San Pedro area, so we'll have to see what he does as we continue south here. But we are just going by the harbor now. You can see very light traffic here, sitting in that number 2 lane, and just listening to the the traffic from the law enforcement on the ground. They are aware of where this suspect lives, or at least where this vehicle resides, and they are attempting to see if that might be the direction that he is going. But we are still going southbound now through the off-ramp for the bridge down here, and there you go through this interchange here. And this is where the freeway ends. So we'll see what happens as we get down here, as we hit more of the off-freeway traffic, those stoplights and things like that. We saw him running lights earlier. We saw him going wrong side of the road, which this time of day, people trying to get home, that is extremely dangerous. Southbound Gaffey now from the 110 freeway, or eastbound Gaffey. And we'll have to see what he does here as he continues through the San Pedro area of Los Angeles. No units behind him, just an air unit overhead, wanted for reckless driving and possible DUI on that CHP. We tried to pull him over like we talked about. LAPD got involved, back over to CHP. And it's been in and out of ground units behind it. He's stopped multiple times. We saw that video earlier of him clipping a vehicle on the 405 as he attempted to jump through lanes to avoid traffic. And it looks like we are again sitting at a turn pocket here, sitting far back. That's a tactic he's been using throughout the day. It gives him that ability to change his mind if he wants to turn back into traffic, if he wants to do a U-turn, something like that. He has plenty of space. And so we'll have to see what they do here. The good thing about a vehicle of this size is if the ground units do get involved and they do get a moment, it is small enough for a pit maneuver because of its size. The SUVs and the units that both the LAPD and the CHP have, they would be a possible pro to attempt that sort of tactic to end this. Now, just listening right now on the radio, we haven't been able to get it confirmed, but they are learning by talking to people knowing this person or the suspect in the vehicle that he has been known to have a weapon. So that's going to bring in a whole nother level of safety measures that the ground units are going to have to abide by to protect themselves and the public if this does end. So we were just talking about pit maneuvers. Sometimes when there's weapons involved, that's out of the question, because you would hate to have this vehicle get disabled and then the suspect come out shooting if it's like facing the patrol vehicles. So we did that U-turn here on Gaffey, and we're going to have to see what he does here. He has the ability to get on the 110, and it looks like that's what we're doing, back on the 110 northbound from Gaffey, and just going with the speed of traffic here again. So this is what we've been seeing all day, is just erratic movements, doing different directions, just attempting to evade the police. But the thing about this is our departments down here, they have those air units, and when they have these suspects in sight, they don't let that go away. There's always an air unit overhead if they are in pursuit. Once one arrives, pretty much they often never step away, and they always have an eye on that suspect and always know where they are, so that those ground units can get involved when necessary. But now northbound 110 coming up on the Channel Street exit, going about 90 miles an hour, and now going the opposite way. So we've done pretty much a big circle from earlier. This is where he supposedly resides and comes from. We went all the way from the San Fernando Valley down here and are now making our way back northbound from down here, headed back up the 110, and we'll have to see where it goes from here. But 90 miles an hour or so in that number one lane, light traffic as we continue here on the 110 northbound. Roger. let me pull out and look real quick. I don't hear any on our police scanners here, but as you can see, there's really no one behind him except other traffic that's catching up. But that suspect there still hugging that number 4 lane, going about 80 miles an hour, like you were saying. Odd times right now with these freeways being empty. Any other time of the year, if we didn't have a pandemic or a stay-at-home order, these would be full of commuters trying to get home from their day at work. So the good thing about that is there's no one out here, or at least less people out here, that could get hurt from this driver driving in such an erratic and reckless pace. But we are still continuing northbound. That air unit's overhead, calling it out, going through what's going to be Sepulveda now, northbound on the 110 freeway, 80 miles an hour or so. We're going to try to get to one side or the other, but let's push in and see if we can see anything on the back of this vehicle that is of any interest. I don't see anything there, but like I said, the law enforcement agencies have been able to get that license plate that we can see there and run it and know who this guy is, and are attempting to talk to him or attempting to talk to family, know what's going on in that vehicle. We've heard that the suspect, if it is the suspect that owns the vehicle, inside that vehicle, has been known to carry weapons, and he does live in that San Pedro area, so now we're leaving that area, but all that information is really good for law enforcement as they continue to follow and pursue this vehicle, as it puts everyone in a safer mindset, knowing the situations that can occur. Let's pull out just a little. I saw that vehicle right behind it. It doesn't look like it's a law enforcement vehicle, just another vehicle going at about a similar pace. But coming up on Carson Street now, roughly 80 miles an hour through that light traffic. You see him just passing in that number 4 lane there. But we'll have to see what happens as we get closer to the 405. We're probably about 3 minutes away from the 405, so about 5 miles or so from the 405 as we go through that Carson off-ramp there. But this vehicle slowing down just a bit as we got on the freeway. Not seeing those units behind it, not seeing them on the side of the road or anything anymore, just beginning to go with the flow of traffic. And we haven't seen this for quite a while. Anytime he's been on the freeway after being followed by a unit, he's been driving extremely erratically, jumping between all the lanes, and it seems like he's pretty much sticking to that 3 and 4 lane right now, kind of going a little faster than traffic, but nothing that would set most officers off. Back into that number 4 lane here in the Carson area, northbound 110 freeway, and we'll have to see what happens as he gets up here closer to the 405 through Delamo now. He is set up, if he sticks over here in the number 3 and 4 lanes, to go southbound on the 405. And that is, it's not, looking out my window, it's not packed, but there is a higher flow of traffic on the 405 right now than the 110, that's for sure. And so we might see some of that erratic behavior coming again if he feels pressured or worried about the police being involved. But he does have that air unit overhead. I hear him right now giving the updates to the ground units and to those supervisors back at the Communications Division of California Highway Patrol, who are making decisions on what to do next with this pursuit. But southbound 405 now, and going towards Long Beach, that's going to be the direction we are going now as we turn that southbound 405. We'll see if he gets off again or something. As like we were saying, the car does register back to San Pedro, so we're not sure where he's going now. We thought for a moment that he was going back home, but it doesn't look like that's the case anymore. Now jumping through lanes on the southbound 405 here through Carson, and we'll have to see what it goes from here. Now up to 85 miles an hour again, so got back on this freeway with more traffic, sped up quite a bit. Coming up on Delamo on the 405. Delamo kind of goes through the 110 and the 405 into that carpool lane now, just speeding off with no units behind, but we do have an air unit above, and this suspect is not going to get away from that air unit by any means, whether he's in the car or on the ground. Those air units are trained to keep an eye on that suspect and not let him go. But we're jumping through that carpool and that number 1 lane, getting out of the way of the traffic. And that's some of the erratic behavior that those CHP units earlier might have noticed, and that might have been the reason they attempted that original traffic stop. But those CHP units saw him going wrong way on a side street and said, no way, that's too dangerous. We don't want to put anyone at risk. If we step away, this might get a little slower and a little more safer, and we can pick them up later. We have an air unit over it, and that's pretty much been the mentality of this whole pursuit of we'll get involved when we deem it safe, but if the suspect gets erratic or starts doing things that are dangerous, we're going to step back and let that air unit do its job, because it's not worth it to us to put anyone else in danger. Coming up on Wilmington now, southbound 405, going about 95 miles an hour or so around this bend here. There is some heavy traffic around the corner as I look out my window, so we'll have to see what the suspect decides to do here. He's jumping all the way over into that number 4 lane, coming up on Wilmington, going over the LA River there. But we're exiting Wilmington now here from the southbound 405 here in Carson, and we'll have to see what he does as we get off this this off ramp. And we're in that right-hand turn pocket. He is being patient. He's not going to try to jump around that vehicle, it looks like, which is good, especially with that oncoming traffic coming from under that overpass. They might not see him with the concrete and stuff that usually holds up those overpasses, and the large trucks that are coming down into the harbor for all that shipping. This could be extremely dangerous. But now we are going to go southbound Wilmington from the 405, jumping over into that left-hand turn pocket. We'll have to see what he does there. And this is the theme we've been seeing, is hopping on and off the freeway. I was trying to see if probably units are following him or what's going on there. Giving himself options to get out of whatever situation he is. When we first came on air with this, as you guys recall, this had stopped in a parking lot. He had been off the freeway in the Redondo Beach area, and he had stopped in a parking lot, and then the CHP arrived, and he said, nope, I'm not ready to give up, and put it in reverse, pulled out of that parking spot, and the pursuit went on. But now we are westbound 223rd Street here in Carson from Wilmington, up to 50 miles an hour, passing that big rig there. Very dangerous on these side streets to be going that speed, especially with slower traffic. No one's expecting for cars going that speed. Wow, just going around that vehicle on the right shoulder there through the intersection there, and we are still continuing westbound on 223rd from Lou Crane, coming up on Edgar Street, up to 80 miles an hour. Wow, on a surface street here. These speeds aren't new for this pursuit, but typically those speeds were happening on the freeway system. But we are going westbound now through Bonita, and we're going back towards. He is, and that's where it becomes dangerous. That's 100% right. We are 223rd Street, westbound through Figueroa now, coming up on another stoplight here. He is stopping for this light, which is great because we saw that cross traffic there. But going in the upwards of 70 miles an hour plus down these surface streets is extremely dangerous, as we were just saying. But westbound, we are coming back up on the 110 freeway. So we've kind of done a big circle, northbound 110 up to the 405, getting off on Wilmington, back down here to 123rd, almost at the freeway once again. I'm not sure if he has an on-ramp here. Let's pull out a little wider and take a look. It doesn't look like it. He does have an on-ramp on the other side of the freeway where he can go southbound. So we'll have to see what he makes this decision to do here. But we are following this gray Ford Fiesta here, wanted for reckless driving on the possibility of DUI, crossing over the 110 freeway on 223rd Street, coming up on Vermont Avenue now here in the West Carson area. And I'm just hearing from my pilot now, we're actually going to have to step away and grab some fuel. We've been on this pursuit so long. So I'm going to send it back down to you guys. We're going to grab some fuel and we'll be back over it as soon as possible. Okay. Thank you. We're grabbing fuel. Heading for fuel. We are going to Long Beach. Okay, whatever you know. Pilot's saying Hawthorne's faster. We're going to go to Hawthorne. We're good. Let's go. New Center Skycam, we're going for fuel. We'll talk to you in a bit.